All right.
Oh, oh,
And
We hear you, Angie.
whoops. Let me put myself on mute.
she's such a rep.
Does anyone from the public have any comments regarding the minutes from our last meeting or from the policy? The draft minutes from the policy committee meeting? Patrick, did you have a comment? Welcome, Tracy. Robert, could you please note that Member Watson is joining?
Yes, yes.
Thank
Let's
you.
see. And do you have
All right. Not seeing any questions. Robert, can you check and see if anyone remotely has any questions or comments?
all right, and
regarding
those online
minutes?
are able to ask questions or make comments by pressing the *3 on your phone or the little hand icon on your computer. And the minutes are on our website and they're accessible here. Hopefully there's enough copies here in the room. I do not see any hands raised.
Right. Not seeing anyone or hearing anyone for public comment. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes?
A motion that we approve minutes.
Second.
All right. So we'll have Melanie second it, and Khalees, you can do the next one. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any, motion carries.
Okay,
All right.
I'll note that that is done.
We're at old business training for shelter staff. Is anyone on the committee? So what we were talking about at our last meeting was when committee members do site visits, you can ask for the training binder, and that should be provided to you. And it'll list the days and the topic of the training and staff who attended. So I'm not sure if y'all are doing that on your site visits yet or not.
No.
Let me make sure, sorry.
Hello.
Yeah.
Okay, Drew. So, my visit, I believe, was last week at Next Door, and we did look at their training binder. They were behind on a couple of trainings,
Mhm.
and then I know that some of their new hires, they have them do trainings over on the computer instead of like in-person trainings.
Right.
But yeah, we did look at we do ask for the binders for trainings and as well as the sanctuary. They showed me their binder and they were up on their trainings.
So we had one shelter that was up to date and another that was.
That wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is something that we can put in your findings from your
Mhm.
site visit.
Yes.
And we can start tracking that.
Mhm.
Any other comments on that? Go ahead.
We have a checklist for our site visits.
Mhm.
Are we going to revise that to add, check the training? Did you check the training binder?
You know, and I apologize. It used to be on there at one time. And so what we can do is we can review that checklist to ensure that everything is on there. Because I know we should also be checking emergency kits.
Mhm.
And frankly, we haven't reviewed that checklist. So that's a great idea. If we can.
Yeah, the checklist does say a couple specific trainings to look for, but it should say, look at all.
The training
Yes.
binder.
Yeah, so that I don't think we've updated that on any of the forms. They're all specific to the site. So I'll take that as a to-do item.
All right. Does anyone from the public have any comments regarding the training for shelter staff? Robert, is there anyone?
I have my hand raised.
Oh, sorry, Angie, I can't see your hand.
I know, sorry. I just questioning when we have findings, are we taking it one step further and making sure that when we notify the shelters of our findings, that we're highlighting that, things that are missing, for, example, the one shelter that was behind, when have findings, we're notifying the shelter's staff that this is what we found and give them an opportunity to remedy.
So the practice used to be, and again, I'm speaking from a long, I don't want to tell you all how long ago, from experience. So when we would have site visits as a shelter, we would respond to any findings in writing and provide proof of remediation. So again, that's something we can review to make sure that that's still in place. Robert?
Yeah, proof of remediation. That's a good, I like that.
We used to do that as a practice.
It makes sense.
Right.
The good old
Otherwise, the
days.
Finding may continue from one month to the next, and we have seen that at one site. Angie and I saw that with the showers, hot water.
Is there any other comments or people with their hands up, Robert? I don't have
Let me
access
double
to
check
that.
the feed. So those on line can press *3 to raise their hand or use their computer icon, and I do not see any hands raised.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Robert, did you
Yeah,
say?
no hands are raised for comment on that item.
Okay.
We had a lot of comments in the minutes from previous meetings.
Robert, do you want to have a vote on each action, on everything under old business at one time, or do you want to take them one at a time? What would be your preference, easier for keeping minutes?
Well, I don't know if you want to vote on each item necessarily. I mean, usually the action items are the key ones to
Okay,
vote on.
all right. So let's go to the administrative code and bylaw edits. And so the update I have on that is we're still waiting. Everything has been submitted. And it's just going through the process. And, bureaucracies, we don't have control over their timeframes. So we're just moving forward on that. Unless you have something, Robert. an
Well,
update.
I did get some requests from the policy people at HSH asking for a schedule of inspections and operating procedures so that in case Supervisor Ronan, I believe she's the sponsor,
Mhm.
has questions, they don't want to feel like they're flat-footed on that.
Correct.
So I provided that last few days ago, and hopefully they did not get back to me to say that there was a problem with it. Maybe they haven't had a chance to read it yet, but yeah, this has taken a while, but it's good to know we have a sponsor.
Yes, so, and Supervisor Owen does take this issue seriously. I'm confident about that. I had a meeting with her and her staff and Dylan. And so it was a very productive meeting, and I know this particular issue is near and dear to her heart. So CJ, you had a comment?
That was my question. I was just wondering who was sponsoring us, how we were getting that through.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the public on this particular issue?
No one online has raised their hand.
And I don't see anyone from the public up at the podium. So let's go to item C, video recordings at shelters.
Yeah, so I can report that we did ask HSH whether they could commit to auditing periodically as opposed to when the question comes up, and suggested that at the very least quarterly seemed to be reasonable to me. It's apparently not that easy to determine that the servers are working. So what happened last year twice was that not that the systems had stopped working entirely, but that the recording function was broken somehow, and they were not able to retrieve video. And
So can I chime in real quick about that? So my understanding is the shelter staff who are sitting at the front desk, they could see everything, right? But what they didn't realize is that it wasn't recording because that's not what they're looking for, right? And then some shelters, HSH owns the video recording or the videos, and some shelters own their own. So they have, it's different. If they own their own, they have control over that video. So hopefully as we move forward, we can make suggestions to people that own their own equipment, that if there is an allegation of violence, that they save that piece of video. That would make sense, whether or not the clients at the shelter make complaints, because not everybody makes a complaint, but people hear about things and it's real easy to check the video so that there's still some accountability. Does that make sense, what I'm saying to folks? Okay. Robert, you want to
Yeah,
add support of that?
Yeah, and I'll just mention that, so the HSH facilities people handle the servers for some of the shelters, for example, the navigation shelters, I believe. They were somewhat willing. They apparently have a sense that this is not normally handled by facilities, that this would normally be handled by some other team, but they have it on their lap, so they said that they could probably check quarterly. And then the program manager team is going to discuss it among themselves to see if all their shelters, if any of their shelters would likely not be able to comply with such a mandate. Because again, we don't want this to be discovered only when one of our clients alleges that they were assaulted and wants, evidence of it, and then it's not there.
So this is still an ongoing discussion. We don't have a remedy for it yet. So just be aware of that. It's an ongoing discussion that's taking place amongst HSH. Belinda?
Online also, you can Google, there's a pretty extensive description of how things are reserved. As the owner, like HSH would own some of the video and like you just explained, but there's it breaks it all down for you. So,
Excuse me, members, if you talk into your microphone, I think people can hear you. I think you have to kind of have your mouth within 6 inches of the mic.
hello. Okay.
Thanks.
I Googled it, of course, and online there's a very descriptive and it breaks it down very well for you of how video is saved and who owns the video at the properties that are managed by HSH. And so if you want to read that, I didn't bring my notes with me, but I Googled it, so we are all capable of Googling it. So
So there is
amazing.
existing policy.
there is existing policy.
I have a question on that, actually.
Sure.
Just,
Okay.
there's HSH, who will own the video footage, and then we have the shelter operators themselves who will be in control of the video footage. But what about when they subcontract with the building owner? Sometimes I've heard possibly a Dante, I think is where I heard that the building owner sometimes owns the entire video, system. So I'd like to just put that in front of, whoever's dealing with that, because that's another thing that we need to be mindful of.
Yeah, and I'm sure as the discussions on this issue continue, we're going to find out more things.
Right.
So it's an evolving issue. There's always, so yeah, hopefully we're not surprised. Okay. All right. Robert, does anyone from the public have any comment on this?
Right. Those in the room, of course, when they have comment, can come up to the microphone and we'll see you and recognize you. Those online, press *3 if you want to be recognized and unmuted, or press the hand icon on your computer. I don't see anyone in the room, so if you're online and want to talk about video.
Wait, how can you not see my hand up?
Hey, members who are online, please jump in. You pretend you're here. You can just jump in, and I did not see it. Sorry, Angie.
Oh, okay. My question is are we at any point thinking about pushing the issue that HSH take ownership of all sites for videos? That way there's just no questioning. We just go let HSH know that we need to pull some footage.
I think that's a great idea.
You know, Angie, I don't know, we'd have to have a legal opinion because if HSH is not, if they're not, if they don't own that shelter site and they're not renting it and the shelter is, I'm not an attorney. I don't have expertise in this area, but that's something we can ask. So I don't know if we can, if we have the capacity to to ask that. I don't know.
Or
That's
what
my-
about language with the contract as they move into new RFP, that, even if the shelter owns the video, that it built into the contract that if there's an act of violence, that shelter monitoring committee should have access to any video, on site.
So that's a great suggestion. But again, I don't know if it's possible to put that. That's a question we have to ask. But
Okay,
that's a great
thanks.
suggestion.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And I'll note that Member Creech has
Welcome.
joined
Welcome,
the
Brett.
quorum. Thank you for braving security here.
Right. Any other comments from the public or committee members, or committee members first and then the public? Sorry.
Is this something that we're, gonna look more into and come back?
Yeah,
And revisit?
there's going to be ongoing discussions with HSH.
So it's nothing we're voting on today,
Yeah.
just we're gonna
No,
talk about it.
we're going to keep talking about it. Our motion is going to say that we're accepting these items, but not that they're going to be stagnant or not addressed again.
Gotcha.
I motion that we accept these 3 items for further discussion if it's.
Hold on to that
Time.
thought. We need to ask if there's any members from the public that want to comment on this.
We refresh that. I don't see any, but have to keep refreshing this.
Yeah.
It's a black screen with a black hand. Yeah, nobody's on there.
All right, now we're ready for you, Belinda.
I make the motion that we approve these 3 items for further discussion.
I'll second.
Britt, beat you to the punch?
I don't.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hey,
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. All right, new business reports. Our subcommittee report. That would be you, Ms.
Yes,
Sue.
yes. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, so, this month at the subcommittee meeting, we definitely talked about trainings, ensuring that the client, that the complaints are filed with the shelter, like trying to get a better system. CJ's actually working on that, and I think she'll be able to talk about that more coming soon. We also talked about and addressed the video system, because we're trying to, like you said, that's an ongoing discussion that we're trying to come up with. A resolution where all parties are satisfied with the outcome. Yeah, I think that's about it. Or if you have something, anybody from the subcommittee? Policy
Oh,
subcommittee
Didn't we
have
talk
anything to
about
add?
reintroducing ourselves to the sites? Like,
Yes,
also-
and I'm gonna
yeah.
talk about that because we're gonna propose for I just want to make sure that as far as what I just said about the trainings and the ensuring the complaints, because I know you got a suggestion. Are you ready to speak on that? Are you not?
Can I ask, so I see a proposed action here.
Yes.
So the action is to approve revision to the inspection questionnaire.
Yes,
To
so I was
include-
gonna talk about that, and I just
Okay.
want to make sure that no one else had anything to say in the
Okay.
policy committee about the trainings, the system on getting complaints from the shelter to us, and anything else. So, and I also want to propose, because we talked about, Yes.
The inspection questionnaire, it needs to be updated because on the one that I had, it had, like, some of it was like previously filled out, like from an old one, and let me just, 1 second, I'm just trying to pull up on my phone and see a picture of it.
Actually, we talked about earlier about revising the shelter checklist, which
Okay.
would include this.
Uh-huh.
And so Robert will review it and we'll send it out to everybody.
Okay,
But if I gave you one with fields filled out, that was a mistake. My
Okay.
apologies, Tracy.
yeah, like it said, like the ADA liaison, it wasn't like Emeka, it was somebody else. It already had some people's names on there.
Oh.
And it was some other ones. Culture competency training.
So your
Yes, 'cause-
shelter checklist should be blank when you get it.
Yes.
And we're going to revise it and add some things like we're going to put in there, we're going to add, review the training binder because that's not on there. So we'll pass it out and ask for your feedback and then we'll all look at it and approve it. Does that make sense to people?
Yes.
Yes.
Also,
Yeah, and also the shelter times, like, I mean, the lights out times and the in and out times, that should be blank and allow us to fill it in. The times were filled in already.
Right.
Just some things, yeah.
So we're also trying to get more visual in the shelters as well. So we are also proposing that, when we get a checklist, on the questionnaire, we get, a box where it says that they see our actual posters and that they are printed in color and are next to like the site's complaint box. So that's like how we're trying to get more into the shelters visibility. We also did talk about sending out a, hey, this is the full board or the shelter monitoring committee, like welcoming cards. We wanted to propose that as well, where we take like, hey, kind of like what we do on our website already with our bios, but like putting it in like a little card form and mailing it out to the shelters, like, hey, this is us, come see us, we're human, we want to help. So that's also what we want to bring to you guys.
Great. Love it. That's our family Christmas card.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. Got
Can
it.
I ask
Ask
a
a
our
couple
family.
questions. First, when does the subcommittee meet? I'd love to join if possible.
No.
Wednesday before this.
The second Wednesday at
3.
3 p.m.
And it's usually via Zoom, so you can join.
And we
remotely.
do send out invites.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out. And if that time. is
Encourage
an issue-
everybody.
Yes, we encourage everyone.
Absolutely.
We had a nice quorum this last time.
I loved it. It was so
a
lively,
great
I
meeting.
wasn't allowed to comment at all.
Sorry.
Not that I'm pointing fingers.
And then I mean, I love the postcard idea. Maybe a question for Robert. Do we have budget for that type of stuff? Do we have a budget associated with the committee?
We do have some ability to print things, certainly. It's not- I don't think that's an
We
issue.
may not
Actually
have
worked.
postage.
I was working on
We
the
could- We
design.
could deliver them during our site visits.
Yeah, CJ's working on the design. She's gonna present it next month.
Anyone who wants to participate in that, please participate with me. Like, tell me what to do.
Thank you. Thank you. Any more questions from committee members? Any questions from committee members remotely? Robert? Make sure.
Well, I was just thinking that we could actually set up our greeting cards like a Palm Pilot of what we can, who we are, what we do, and what we can do, and what we can't do.
I'm not familiar with Palm Pilots.
Talk,
But
CJ.
tell me, like, I like the categorization aspect of that.
Well, we
Well,
have,
we'll get together.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Let's,
Send our suggestions to CJ, please.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Email.
and
my
then
email.
we can talk about it more at our subcommittee meeting. Okay, we can work out the details then.
well,
I'll be there.
we have that sheet that explains like who we are and what we do and what we don't do.
Right.
Do they get that as well? Do we send that out to the shelters?
Yes.
They get that? Like, yeah.
So we periodically may update something. We changed the phone number recently, for example, so we sent out new ones to all our contacts.
I've seen it posted
There actually
every
is
time.
one here, or was one here.
So I'm excited about the new ideas that are coming forth and I look
Not
forward
there.
to discussing them and implementing them. So thank you all.
Thank
You had a
guys for the
question?
support.
I just wanted to say, in what I've observed and, it's about our presence and, having the presence for the community to be able to know who we are and how to access us. So I think that, when you walk into many of the shelters, you see, and I mean, I was guilty of this before, where you just have lots of paper everywhere and it's very confusing, but really putting our stamp of really having a presence, being, with our contact information and really being that, Switzerland, we're here, we're available for both sides to help. And really having that, because you walk in oftentimes and
Yeah.
the information is over here in the back door and it's not easily found and it's confusing. And I know if I was in a situation and I needed to make a grievance or, there's a lot of, feelings between where you're living. So just creating that presence and really having a stamp where we can be seen and easily identifiable, I think is the whole key of what we're trying to do.
I agree. One of the things in my experience that was very helpful is when we would let people know that we were there and doing a survey, people would come up to us and say, please survey me. And so that's based on my experience.
I think it's very important when we're making a site inspection that we do engage with the clients, not just with staff. That we, like you said, tell them I always tell them who I am, who I'm working with, what my purpose for the visit is, and encourage them if they have any questions or anything, just find me while I'm in there or find a
100%.
poster. So.
Yeah, I'm just saying that, we are here, we're not the enemy. We're here to help the sites be better. So we're a team and that's how it is. We should be working in tandem together to be better, to make the lives of the community that we're serving better. And that's the end of that's where it all ends.
Absolutely.
I love the Switzerland reference.
Yeah, very good.
And also, I think we're here to make it easier for shelter operators to meet the expectations and meet the requirements. And I think that's really important. We're here for obviously the clients, but we want everything to go easier for everybody. So I'm really appreciative that everybody's on the same page with that.
Right. There's always room for improvement. All right. Does anyone from the public have any comments? If not hearing any more from committee members? Well-
Let's check the,
Welcome, Patrick. Come on up. You're here in person.
Hi, yes, hi. Well, hi, everyone. Patrick Buckaloo, he, him. I am the Navigation Center's program manager for the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing. Be back up later for an occupancy report. But I just want to throw out a couple things. One, I think Britt hit the nail on the head with posters, just to give you some idea of what I sort of see. I also require, the department requires, right, a lot of postings up, and a lot of times it just looks like wallpaper in that way that you start ignoring things because you see them up. I love the idea of colored flyers. I do think that will make a difference. That being said, this is going to sound wild. I think a lot of the programs don't have any color printers. And so maybe that's just something, Robert, you and I could work together on to maybe we could print those off of the department and then make sure they get disseminated out. But I just wanted to touch on those 2 points. Thanks.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you for wanting to help out with the color printing.
Hi, Azim Zia Ibrahimi, she, her pronouns. And I prefer not Switzerland, maybe Malta. If anybody's been watching ICJ hearings, Switzerland, nah, not cool with that. All that being, neoliberal apathy is not anything I really feel good about. All that being said, bureaucratic nepotism is a point that I would like to bring up. And I think it is pertinent to what has been just brought up, and I'm sure I'll go into nauseam about it at the end as well. But as middle management, governmental agencies, allowing a committee that is set aside to represent, highlight, and have oversight, to allow other agencies to come in and gaslight the process, I find completely egregious. Completely egregious. I think if people want to come in here and sit down and hear what is being presented so they can clock a room and know how to do their job better, that is okay. But presenting optics from the contractor about their subcontractor and gaslighting the process of accountability for hiring a subcontractor that is not holding up their end of the deal. That's nepotistic to allow those conversations to take up airspace at all, period. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to remind everyone that this committee, we are just ensuring that people adhere to the standards. There's 14, Robert,
32.
standards.
Oh,
Standards of
30,
I'm sorry,
31.
31 standards of care. I apologize. So that's what we do. We don't provide oversight. We make sure that people are adhering to the standards of care, those 32 standards. That is the role of this committee. And I just want to remind everyone of that. And I think we had public comments. I heard bells going off, Robert.
Yeah, Angie, I think you're right. There's 32. They're trying to change it to 31. I don't remember which one they're taking out, but let's see. So
I think it's standard
no-
care number 3 that there or
There was some obscure one there that we
yeah,
talked
don't
about.
quote me. One that's no longer relevant, but currently there's 32 standard of care.
Thank you,
No
Angie.
no hands up.
Not
So-
seeing any more
so,
comments from the public. We are, item B, attendance.
we need to vote on this item here. Approve revision to questionnaire to include, we're going to vote on approving the revision to the inspection questionnaire to include a check to see if SMC flyers to be printed in color are posted on or next to the complaint box. And this is something we'll have to sort of socialize. I mean, we don't want to like ding anybody if they don't know about this, but we're going to start, letting them know that if we see that they're not like that, then,
We can make a note of it
yeah,
in our
we'll
findings.
let them know.
Well, we're going to provide them first, right? I mean, this is ongoing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of, it'll be an ongoing thing to transition over to this, but this is a way of making sure that somebody who submits an internal complaint, this is sort of one step in this, but
Right.
an obvious thing to do, that if somebody submits an internal complaint and they don't get an answer, well, they can see the SMC flyer right there next to the internal complaint box.
Right.
So they aren't, it's not like Patrick said, lost in the wallpaper.
Yeah.
And they think there's nothing else they can do because they've never noticed our flyer.
So who is going to retrieve these from the complaint box, Robert?
Well, no, we're not saying that the SMC complaints would be put in that box, but our flyer
Will be
would
by there.
next to the box.
Okay,
So it's a
Okay.
two pathways.
okay. So it can be the complaint box or to file a grievance with the shelter monitoring committee?
Right.
Okay, got
So
it.
we're voting on two things. So we're voting on one, to put the check mark on the actual questionnaire that it says that the flyers are there, it's printed in color, it's next to or by the complaint box or grievance box. And then, so we're voting to put it actually on our questionnaire.
Got it.
Are approving that, because this was what the subcommittee brought up.
Yeah. CJ, you have a question?
Not every site has a complaint box or even a place for complaints. Often, like I find in my experience in shelters, it's hard to even know how to go about that process. So is there a substitution for complaint box that we could maybe say elevator or like something that all the sites have, or in the front door, or I don't know?
Well, they should have a complaint.
They should have a complaint
Aha,
box.
Maybe
and-
that
and-
needs to be
and
on our
so-
questionnaire.
Yeah, and so maybe we should find out. And in the site visits I have made, again, and I haven't gone to every shelter, obviously. I have seen complaint boxes. So
Yeah.
thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we need to ensure that they do have a complaint box if that's what we're going to ask.
All right.
I just wanted to ask about translation. I want to ensure that when we do post these, they're in the threshold languages, Spanish, Cantonese.
The same model that we use for all postings at the shelters right now,
Great.
all languages.
Great.
Okay. Do I have a motion for the checkbox and the in color posters by it?
I motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. I am so sorry, Clay. You gotta be louder, girl.
Sorry, please.
I'm too loud. I don't know what's-
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
I,
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you. So I am so happy to see our attendance today. We have a quorum. We started a couple of minutes late, so thank you all committee members who are attending in person, remotely. CJ, welcome. I know finally we get to meet in person, so
Right.
yeah. And so, and Belinda, welcome back. It's
Thank
good
you.
to see you in person as well. So yeah, let's just keep this momentum going. I feel like COVID had a lot to do with it and like we're coming out on the other end. So again, thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Belinda?
Yes, I know in the last meeting that I was in remotely, Charles asked about what we could do to get quorum up or have quorum each time. And I don't know if there's a possibility to release the restrictions on Zoom meetings or because, I mean, you don't know 30 days in advance what's going to happen. I didn't know that I had to go back out of town. So if those the restrictions could be loosened up a little bit so we could at least obtain quorum, that would be
Yeah, it's
helpful.
not within our
No,
jurisdiction to change those. Those come down to us. Now, if you have, if you want to submit a reasonable accommodation form, and some of the members have done so, you can attend online. So if,
so that at any time you could attend online.
right, and so you would need to go through Human Services, I think,
Okay.
department. They've been pretty, I mean, accommodating
Okay.
with their reasonable accommodations, as far as I can see, compared to what I've seen in years past in my
Okay.
different roles. So, you know, wouldn't hurt to attempt that.
I got so stuck into everything being the same in my life that I was not expecting anything to come up and didn't prepare for it. So it's a good
Yeah.
idea. Thank you.
can I just ask about the empty seats? So right now, seat 1 is somebody currently in a family shelter, but the changes going through the process with Supervisor Ronan would change it so that it'd be somebody with experience within the family shelter system, not necessarily somebody who's actively staying there, which I agree is a high bar to meet. If I'm staying at a family shelter, I'm not going to be coming to these meetings.
Yeah.
So that's a welcome change. I'm thinking about recruiting for that and reaching out through the network. I would encourage everybody else to do that, but I guess we have to have those changes go through first, which could take a while.
Well, I think, you know, there was no disagreement about that. I remember Peskin, Supervisor Peskin, remember Angie was very, it seemed like a no-brainer. I mean, he even suggested, was it him that suggested that?
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, feel free to start, you know, probing to see if people are interested.
CJ.
I think it's really important actually to keep them the same. I think it's really important to have representation on this body by people who actually are currently living in the shelter system. And I am living in the shelter system right now, and I find it extremely challenging to sit on this committee. And it's for many reasons. It's not just because I'm challenged by my own circumstances and trying to get my life turned around, but also it's a challenge because of I feel that there's a misunderstanding between shelter operators and the committee itself. I have experienced backlash. I've experienced, this is really hard to talk about, actually. I've been treated, I believe I've been treated unfairly in certain circumstances because I'm on this committee. I've been treated differently. And that's one of the things that I think is really important to change in our system. And I don't think that we can change the relationship unless there are people sitting on who are in the system. And it's hard for me to be the only one, but I believe that the other seat should have that requirement, not only because I'd like some company, but because We need to be represented. You know, people who are currently in the system need to be treated just the same as everybody else. And so that's just my 2 cents. I think it's really important not to change that.
Robert, do you have standard of care with you? Robert,
Say
do you
again?
have access to it? Do you have access to the standard of care? Can you, or to the seats? Can you read what that seat says? Because I just, CJ, I think you need to like break it down. I'm telling you that I have diligently, that was my mission from day one when I started with shelter monitoring. Even after I left being a staff member, I'm still been. And I think the issue here is it'd behoove us to loosen up the seat, then continue to have it sit open. So from 2020, I have, and I've been around for about 19 years. I know a gang of people. So for me not to be able to, um, recruit for that seat, there's something that we need, there's something in the way that that's the saying of that seat is worded that is making it so challenging. So again, I hear you. It must be incredibly difficult to be sitting as a member, and still residing in the circumstances. And I want to honor your feelings around that.
Yeah.
But again, that seat has been incredibly challenging, and I hate to continue to see it just sit empty because we can't fill it. There are many people, because it has to be a child under the age of 18, that they can't commit. They can't commit to the site inspections because they have to get somebody to care for their kids. They can't take their kids on site inspections. They have to be able to commit to the meetings. Again, they have to have, the ability to focus for an hour and a half and not have their children, be loosely at large where they could be, could get into mischief as we know children do. So I, like I said, that seat is the way it is worded now is just very restrictive. And I think the way that we're wanting to loosen it up is not to take away from the family shelters, but because we're still wanting it to have some kind of component that you have to have either worked in a family shelter, participated in a family shelter, but we're just trying to reword it so we can actually get that seat filled.
Go ahead.
As I'm pulling up the seat requirements so we can look at them, how they're worded, just say thank you, CJ. Of course, I appreciate that perspective and I agree. I wonder if there's a way to make it not just like either or, maybe put like a time frame on it. So experience in the family shelter system within the past X number of years, right? So we get somebody who has recent experience, but also open up the window to make filling the seat easier. I mean, my experience with the family shelter system is that folks within it are in crisis, and it is a big ask. What I'll commit to you, CJ, is just, these haven't changed. We're talking about it. In the meantime, let's kick outreach into high gear. I'll reach out to my family provider contacts and see if they have folks. There's some people who are engaged, right? They like coming to City Hall. They're involved in the work. And so let's try to fill it so we don't need to change it. And let's think about opening it up to some degree so that if we can't, we have a broader pool to pull from.
So can we have folks on this committee commit to reaching out to their contacts this next month, and then we can report out on this issue at our next meeting?
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Do you think it'd be a good idea if we maybe reach out to the shelter directors and ask them, like, who do you think would be a good candidate to be on the shelter monitor committee of the clients?
Yeah, that's why I said everyone reach out to their contacts. We all can do that. CJ, I'm sorry.
Thank you guys so much, but first of all, for just being so open to discussing this and like letting me be me. Also, yeah, maybe the family shelter specific is hard because you have parents. But I can tell you, and I can tell Angie for sure, I would be actively recruiting from my position inside the system. I would be actively recruiting, and I would be really happy to do that, and I'm eager to do that. So if there were to be a change, maybe we could just change it from family shelter to any shelter. But also, yeah, I think I would like to recruit, and I think it's a great idea, Tracy, to reach out to the shelter operators and be like, hey, we need somebody. So I think that would be a great first step.
I agree with that, and because I just want to point out there are plenty of women in our shelters and men who are using the shelter system, but somehow have gotten caught up in the system and lost their children. But that doesn't mean they lost their children from day one. They still were doing the parenting thing, and are currently staying in shelter and have their children with family because they don't want to drag their children through the
Yeah.
shelter system. So I think if we open it up to shelters
Yeah.
instead of just family shelters, we might have a better opportunity. I'm happy to pass the baton on this, and I hope that we can definitely get that seat filled. I mean, like I said, from day one back in 2020, that had been my mission. I said, I will not be able to die a happy woman until I get that seat filled.
That's obvious, right?
All right. So
Right.
for the sake of time,
Can I just read this out quickly? I think it's relevant. I just pulled it up and I don't know. So it says seat 1 shall be held by a person who is homeless or formerly homeless and who is living or has lived with the person's homeless child under the age of 18. So the way I'm reading that it doesn't necessarily have to be somebody who's currently in the family shelter system. I don't know if Robert, you have more.
Is that the
on
new
This is
one or
on,
the existing?
well, maybe we can follow up on that. but-
yeah, so can we put this on the agenda for the subcommittee meeting? And I would encourage all of the committee members to make that, and we can have some up-to-date information available for everyone.
Mhm.
All right?
Sounds like a good idea.
All right. So let's hear from the Department of Homelessness and Supportive Housing, Patrick. Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Hi, how you guys doing today?
Good.
Good. We have a shelter client that would like to add a public comment, if
Sure.
that's okay.
Sure.
Sure, yeah, and it's
you
public
state your
comment.
name?
There's general public comment at the end, and then within each discussion items, you can comment on that discussion item.
Okay.
So you can
Yeah, this
decide-
topic has passed.
This
You guys
topic is-
mentioned it earlier. She just came in late.
Oh, I see. Well, there's 3 minutes at the end to talk about whatever you want to that's related. So maybe that might be because it's only 2 minutes.
We can wait.
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
thanks for coming.
And thank you for waving.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Patrick Buckaloo, he, him. I'm the Navigation Center's program manager for the Department of Homelessness, Supportive Housing, and I'm the shelter team rep for this meeting. So I think we didn't get printouts of the vacancy report, or the occupancy, I shouldn't say vacancy, the occupancy report, but we're going to share that on screen. Is that right,
Yeah.
Robert? Okay. Great. As you can see, not a huge change from last month. So most of the emergency adult programs are well over 95%. We have one that is a little bit less than that. That's,
Sorry.
We're waiting for
We
Robert.
don't
to
have
load
the
the
report.
screen. We don't have it.
oh, you don't, okay,
We
great.
don't have it.
Here it comes.
There we go. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
No problem. Okay, CC, for most of the adult emergency shelter programs, this is data that I pulled last Wednesday. We have over 95% in almost all of the programs. The one exception to that is MSC South. As you all know, probably MSC South referrals come from the shelter wait list and from I'm blanking, what's the other, from the CAP referrals for MSC. And so I do think, especially on the, I believe on the CAP side, they have had some trouble filling some of the beds. Still 82%, not terrible. And MSC is a very large program.
It is.
On the navigation side, again, all well over 95% with one exception. Taman Buden, which, as you all are aware, went under a new provider as of January 2nd of this year, the San Francisco Community Health Center. We have the site has procured beds to go up to the full capacity, which was always the intention from when we started Taman Buden, but we never got there. So we have 84 beds. We're still operating off this 64 capacity because there's some, we're just not quite there yet. There's some partitions that need to be procured and that sort of thing. But we do have intakes coming both from the community for Taman Buden, from other trans, gender nonconforming, and intersex serving providers. And we have referrals coming in directly from the same referral sources as the other programs like HOT, HSOC, hospital discharge, the access points, that sort of thing. And then you'll see the non-congregate shelter is quite full. The Tay shelter is quite full, and then the family system. So I don't know if there's any questions about any of the vacancies. I do have some other just general announcements. That's cool. Yeah.
I'm just curious, the MSC South.
Yes.
Why, I wonder why is that so low?
Yeah. So I actually do have an answer for this. So MSC next door and I believe Sanctuary all take referrals from 311 and CAP. And my understanding is that, sorry, not 311, that's what we used to call it, the shelter wait list and CAP. My understanding is the shelter wait list is filling up their beds pretty quickly. As you know, there's like a backlog on that wait list. But that it's the CAP beds that tend to have a little bit more difficulty getting filled. And I don't have, that's of course our partners over at HSA. I don't really have an exact reason for that. I'm happy to talk to my colleague Kathy Purdue, who supports that program, and see if I can get you some more details for next time. But I think this has been a pretty consistent theme for the last few months.
Historically.
Yeah. Great. A couple other announcements. Mission Cabins started taking referrals on Monday. I don't know if you all saw any pictures or got to actually go out for the opening. Just incredible. It's a beautiful site. I'm bragging on it like it's mine. It's not mine. I had nothing to do with it. But I'm just so proud of my colleagues that worked on this. So many people, but especially Angelica Varela, I'll give her a shout out, who's the PM who's going to support this program. Just a wonderful site. And kudos to 5Ps. It just looks really, really nice. Let's see here. Interfaith ended on 3/24. Again, a couple of kudos. They had a really great season at Interfaith. Kudos to ECS and kudos to my colleague Christopher Kramer, who's here for supporting that program. I know it's a lot of work getting it up and then shut down every year. We have a couple of announcements on some new programming that I want to mention is the
Quick question, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
About
please.
Mission Cabins referrals.
Yeah.
How are those going through? Where are we going? Where are the referrals going through? How are you doing that?
Great question. I wish that I had Angelica. My understanding, I'm gonna do something dangerous. I'm gonna say what I think is correct, and then and I'm gonna caveat that I could be incorrect. My understanding is that we are trying to fill most of Mission Cabins with that through SF Hot. So they're mainly trying to focus on people that are unhoused, and rather than like transfers in from other parts of the system, they're trying to get folks that are on the street who have kind of traditionally been sort of unwilling to go into the more traditional shelters to really to incentivize them to go into Mission Cabins.
Thank you.
And it is like a really nice site.
Do we know how many beds?
Yeah.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
How many beds?
Ooh, great.
60? It is 60?
We have 5 keys in the house. 60 single and 8 couple.
I have another question. I'm sorry about
Please.
capacity. At one point in a shelter that I was in, it says that the capacity, it says we're listed at 96 capacity, the particular shelter that I was in. And I was made aware that the occupancy was 111. So is the capacity the rooms or is it the amount of people? Because I know we have couples and stuff, but I'm wondering what happens. How does it go over?
Yeah,
How does
great.
that happen?
Great question, and one that I had myself, CJ. So my understanding is this: I think some sites count. So especially like the family system, right? It's going to fluctuate so much how many people are in like an individual room, is my understanding. Or so you'll have like they can take up to so many families, but the actual number of clients that they're serving fluctuates depending on family size. So if you have a lot of, single moms with children, well, that's going to be smaller than if you have a lot of like families with like 5 or 6 children, right? And so
I guess the reason I'm asking is
Yeah.
because it was not a family shelter. And I think that we should be really specific about capacity. I think it's really important, not just for our needs and for funding needs, but also for like, emergency safety needs, like to be really specific about how many we actually, like how many people we can actually have in a facility.
Totally. I think we actually do have all of that data, and it's like so for example, like 7-Eleven Post, I know has some rooms that are couples rooms, some rooms that are single rooms, and some rooms that are, have up to 3 people in them. And so, but that like occupancy accounts for all of that, but that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to have like, if let's say you have a couple's room and there was no couple to go into it, well, we don't want to leave that vacant. So we put a single person in there. Well, that's going to show full occupancy, right? Even though you could theoretically have another person in that couple room.
But that's the capacity. So like let's say we have, a couple's room, the capacity would include 2 people for that room, but the occupancy may only be
Yes.
one.
Occupancies, each site's going to track their own occupancy
So
too.
I would like to make sure that we never have a occupancy going over capacity, right? Like, I mean, that would be really unsafe. And it wouldn't be correct information, I don't think.
Yes.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
Agreed. I don't think we do. Yeah, I don't think we do. Do you have a specific example where we're doing that?
Monarch, when I was there, at that point, I heard staff discussing, actually, I was told straight up, our capacity is, we're at 111. That's what I heard. We're at 111 capacity right now, or 111 occupancy right now. And I'm looking on the sheet right now and it says 96. And I was aware at that time, but I was living there. And so I didn't want to say anything because obviously it's tough to be in my position, but it definitely concerns me across the board. I want to make sure for safety and for accountability, like we are an earthquake country, like I want to make sure that those numbers always match.
Yeah, absolutely, CJ. I think you're totally right. I don't know the ins and outs of that particular program, but we actually have the PM here. Let's maybe touch base after the meeting and make sure, because
It makes me nervous to even talk
Yeah.
about it because it's hard being in my position and it was hard to be in that situation. It's something that's been on my mind and I want to make sure that when I look at these reports, like that I'm looking at data that actually matches the reality of the situation. So capacity should be like a straight across the board, like number that never changes.
Yeah, correct. We would
Yeah.
never have and should never have, and
Right.
there is no policy that would allow us
Occupancy
to
over.
have more capacity than
More
more
occupancy.
occupancy than
Okay,
we have
cool.
capacity.
I just wanted that to be on the
Yeah.
record.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other
Hats off to
questions for
CJ on
Patrick?
how brave she is.
Thank you, CJ.
God bless you.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a question that I'm curious about. I'm wondering how you see occupancy rates differ between congregate versus non-congregate. Are we seeing rooms take longer to turn over just because
Yes.
there's fixtures and whatnot in there? There might be repairs.
Yeah, great question. So this is something we see a lot, right? So if you're in a congregate shelter, and let's say you're Bayshore Navigation Center, and someone leaves the bed, well, it's really easy to get that bed ready for somebody else, right? You wipe down the bed, you do a little cleaning up, you sweep and mop underneath, and then the bed's ready. If you're a non-congregate program, right? You've had people living in a room by themselves or in small groups, and so what we tend to have is a lot more like, you don't just clean the bed, right? You have to fix the sink that's in the room, and there's a hole in the wall, or there's like a broken window, or the lock doesn't work. And so that's the sort of thing that tends to leave rooms offline for a bit. And then sometimes there's even more, if you get like a mold problem or something, then something might be offline for a really long time. But most of the rooms that are offline in the non-congregates, it's short term, and it's for reasons like sinks, windows, hole in the wall. Yeah.
Last question. I didn't see the Dolores Street numbers, but I know they're expanding back to pre-COVID capacity. Is that, well, I think that's the case, and I'm wondering if that's happening.
Dolores going to pre-COVID capacity, if that's still happening.
Yes, we are at.
Great. I'll say that so everyone can hear. So yes, it sounds like that we are currently at pre-COVID capacity, and that there's an expansion project that's being worked through, and the department's working with Dolores to figure that out.
How many beds? Just
We'll be at a total of 152.
At Dolores Street?
I'm sorry.
At Dolores Street?
Yes.
Oh.
This is all news to me. I'm relaying like.
Yeah. Is there any other questions from committee members for Patrick? Anybody remotely have a question from the committee? Robert?
Sorry, can I throw two more things out?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I want to tell you about a program, Journey Home. There's 5 rooms at the Adante for Journey Home. Both HSA and HSH offer the Journey Home program for people experiencing homelessness and folks with substance use disorders. It's a low barrier program. It provides temporary shelter stays and travel assistance. We partner with like law enforcement and outreach teams. They can all make referrals to the Journey Home program. So the idea is like you have someone who's like, listen, I just really want to go to my sister's in Atlanta. She wants me there. I can't afford to get there. We'll put you in a shelter and then get folks a bus ticket or some kind of travel to get where they need to go. And then there is 9 rooms at Adante for a program called Restore. It's a collaboration between DPH and Code Tenderloin, and it supports PEH with substance use disorders, stabilize and connect to like recovery services.
Is that for the CARE program?
That is for
SB 43?
Okay. Yeah, we're partnering with DPH for the Restore program. Great. Oh, and we've had an uptick, small uptick, but an uptick in COVID cases. I just wanted to mention that. Some programs have been hit a little bit harder than others. Just a reminder that it's not completely gone. That's all.
Thank you.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So with the additions to the Dante Hotel, are you guys staffing individual like clinical social workers or something? Because these behavioral issues are kind of out of the scope of what is currently going on there, or the staff that's currently there.
You know what? Great. I don't have all the answers for you. I'm going to be honest. They're not my programs, and I just kind of give it. If you could just submit that to us, we'll get you like a full rundown of everything that's happening.
There was one question that members had. I
Sure.
missed that last one. Maybe this was it, but we have had some sense that the clients are being given some incentive or some hint that they aren't going to be able to stay. There's going to be a limit to stays. Has there been a change in the protocol there?
Tell me more. Are you talking about a specific program?
Well,
or?
we've seen it with some family shelters where they're saying that we've been here for a year and we're being told we have to leave. So it's prior to COVID, there was a 90 plus 90 kind of limit.
Yeah.
It seems to me.
Family shelter, I am not as familiar with. I know that there has been a number of community meetings with all of the family shelter providers and the department. Let me get that information and get back to you.
So Patrick, currently right now, when somebody enters into Navigation Center or a shelter, they're entering with a date without an exit date, correct?
As far as the adult system goes, I can enter definitively yes. Correct. You are correct, Angie.
And you'll get back to us next month regarding
On the family shelter. Yeah. I'll even email That's appropriate, right, Robert? That I can email you some responses and you can get them out to the group, or
Yeah, if you're willing to do that, that's wonderful. It's
Yeah,
very
it's
helpful. I
the-
mean, we
you don't have to wait a
see, I
month.
think sometimes we get complaints because this dreaded, change is coming upon people. And so it's helpful to know if there are major changes in, how things are working. I think Marion and I have had a flurry, and it seems like family shelters are where
a lot of
this
places.
is.
Okay, so tell you what, let me get you a nice written overview of any and all changes that are happening in the family system, and I'll send that to you, Robert, and you can get that out to the committee.
And then if you could just recap that for the public at the next meeting. I know we'll get it
Yes.
before a month.
Yeah,
but that way
absolutely.
Folks are informed.
100%.
I have one more question about that.
Yeah.
We were told when I was recently living at Monarch, we were told that we only had until June to be in that program. And so I'm curious that right there, we were told that specifically in a community meeting, so that we needed to participate. And they were really great about reminding us to participate in the housing process. And however, we were told that we only had it till June. So I'd like just to know about that.
Which program was this?
Monarch?
Any other questions from the committee? How about remotely, Robert? Do we have any
Refresh
hands up
that
for Patrick?
screen. Those.
I just have a comment for the committee. Just commenting on Patrick saying that there's been a little bit of an uptick in COVID. If you have family members or yourselves that have sensitive to COVID, I would call the site before going to do your site inspection just to find out if they have any outbreaks.
Thank you for that, Angie. Robert, is there anyone else
Yeah,
remotely?
no callers. Again, callers, it's *3 on your phone or the hand icon on your computer to raise your hand with a.
While he's doing that, do we have any members from the public who wish to comment on this issue?
Patrick, I think we'll let you off the hook.
Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, this points out exactly what I brought up in the beginning. It depends on the program. TBNC is a 90-day program, or it was per its original contract. I don't know if that contract changed since SFCHC has taken over from SJI. Other programs I know have time limits on them, and that sort of illuminates my narrative of HSH gaslighting oversight. Again, we've heard misinformation that is not what is happening from the ground level. And that's what I'm bringing to light. That's what I'm having real big issues with. I do see y'all as oversight. And if a member of HSH gets to come in here and present data that doesn't reflect the reality, I got issues. I got straight issues with that. Because at the end of the day, when I'm talking about bureaucratic nepotism, what supports your thesis is going to motivate how you go out and search for metrics and data, as opposed to getting data to support some unknown way of giving support to the people who are the most marginalized at the end of the day. So when I hear mayoral mandates, of course, I'm trans, we're going to end trans homelessness by 2027. You've heard me say this in nauseum. You don't do that and call yourself a sanctuary city. That's politics. And allowing HSH to come in here and gaslight a process, that's politics.
Thank you.
Confusing.
So,
We do have one caller, but we do have somebody in the room.
Right,
So
so-
caller, please.
did you want
continue.
to, did you want to comment on the staff report that Patrick made, or just a comment in general? General?
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah, that'll come up in a little bit.
Just- I
general.
promise I will reach out to you. Please have a seat. I will reach out to you. And so, Robert, you said we
So,
had,
yeah. So call in user 2, I see your hand up. I'm going to unmute you. I don't know if you need to unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm unmuted.
There
I
you
have
go.
a general public comment.
Okay, please introduce yourself and
Hi, my name is Marie Cartier. I'm a clinical social worker born and raised in San Francisco. I've been in the homeless response system for about 8 years. I wanted to call in about my serious concerns about the quality and quantity of food at the shelters. I've had a number of clients complain of getting diarrhea, stomach pain, and other things from these reheated meals that they get at the shelter. I'm also really concerned that they only serve 2 meals a day at the Goff cabins and now at the newly opened Mission cabins, which is great. But one of the big problems with this is, right, the clients who receive CAP have their benefits reduced to $95 a month because they're supposedly getting room and board from this program. So they're paying for these services, but not getting their nutritional needs met. And I know the argument can be made that clients could go to St. Anthony's or Glide or use their CalFresh benefits, but it's important to consider that someone who's been living on the street and coming into shelter, so many appointments to go to, reconnecting with primary care, dental services, often for the first time in years, getting mental health care services, navigating the Byzantine coordinated entry process. With all of this going on, the person should feel secure that their basic nutritional needs can be met. So really serving 3 meals a day should be the bare minimum. And there's so many ways that could be accomplished. Like Goff Cabins already gets some donations from the Chase Center and is occasionally able to provide an extra meal that way. They're just blocks away from Hayes Valley that has so many restaurants. There's so many ways you could forge more community connections and investment in the shelter from the neighborhood by connecting with these restaurants for high quality food and meals. And just finally, food is key to healing. We want our consumers to develop some trust in their providers and want to take the steps necessary to exit homelessness and trust that that's possible, and we're feeding them low quality food and not enough, then they're not going to trust us. So food is really a key to the whole system. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And quickly, historically, and I don't know if this still exists, but shelters used to utilize a registered dietitian to evaluate their meals and ensure that they were being fed nutritious meals. I don't know if that's still in existence. Patrick, I'm sure you can add to that.
Yeah, 2 things. So one, the Kathleen De Silva, who is currently the registered dietitian, who's contracted through DPH. She works under Kate Shooten, who of course is the director of Shelter Health. And Kathleen, along with Kim Jower, who will be the brand new registered dietitian. Kathleen's sticking around for another couple of months to help do some overlap with Kim, let Kim train. I've taken Kim out to all the navigation centers now. And she's been to most of the other shelter programs, including like the ones that do their own food, like MSC. I do want to note that if anyone gets ill in the food in any single program, that is something that needs to be reported immediately, because Kathleen and Kim can do a whole investigation around the food. We can look at food logs. We can look at, temperatures and make sure that everyone, food wasn't spoiled along the process. Yes, the registered dietitian does review all of the menu patterns for every program, including the Meals on Wheels, which is a bulk of a lot of the programs, but a lot of them do their own food as well. And so she reviews all of those menus. There's a 2-week menu cycle for the adult shelter meals. That she develops and works in tandem with the food providers. Yeah, but if there are complaints, I just want to put that as a PSA. Please immediately report that to the site management. Is usually the fastest way to get DPH in, but also, of course, shelter monitoring can step in. My one kind of caveat with you all is that you're wonderful, but I think it's a little bit quicker to just kind of go directly through the program if possible, because we can get Kathleen out right away. But no wrong door. If anyone is getting ill off of any of the food in any of the programs, please report it.
Thank you. And then Belinda and then CJ.
From what I've seen in my inspection, is that the food is just sitting on the countertops and somebody comes up and then they take it and heat it up. So it's not in a cold place. It's not being refrigerated.
Right.
It's just sitting there and then they pick a meal and put it in the microwave, which looks horrible to me.
Yeah, I mean, have you,
That was at next door.
yeah, that's definitely like food should not be sitting out. And so, I mean, I think that there's a couple, well, you should include that in your reports and make sure that the PMs, the program managers at the department are aware, because they can help. And frankly, Kathleen and Kim, because then they can go in and do retraining with the site if needed. They can, there's all sorts of things they can do because we want to make sure people aren't
So
getting
the
sick in our
food
programs.
handling procedures should be.
Yes, and that's another required training, as you're probably all aware, is that everyone has to have their food cert
So
safe.
please, if you see these things, note them in your findings. Okay,
Yeah.
CJ?
So this again is a really, it's an issue dear to my heart, because I'm living in the shelter system and because I'm sitting on this committee, it's very challenging for me, to navigate, my responsibilities versus, my limitations and my needs. Frankly, I need those shelters and so it's a challenge. And I want to say, that there's a big problem. I would like to second that with food, at the shelters. Specifically, I had an experience recently at the last shelter that I lived at, where people were routinely getting sick in the building, but not making complaints because people are overwhelmed in these shelters. You take it to the shelter operator, right? Which is the first thing that you would do. If you're a person on the street who just moved into a shelter, you'd tell the program manager or whatever. Those complaints are not getting to us. I can just say there is no chance that a shelter operator is going to come to us and say, hey, we've been accused of serving stale food or serving food that's not properly heated. Those two things were happening at the site that I was at. And I actually could taste that this food was stale when I received it in the morning. And eventually it caused me to learn how to read lot numbers and I went deep into food packaging, because I needed to know the fact that this food was stale. And in fact, it was stale and it was not properly stored. And I did take it to the committee because I'm able to do that through Robert. Thank you, Robert. And because of my conditions on the ground, I have been unable to follow through with that complaint so far. I have not finished writing it, and I've since transferred to another shelter for many reasons. But I can tell you that also I asked for a nutritionist, and I asked to make dietary changes, and I was told, well, what do you want? What do you want? Like no dairy? And I was like, well, I'd like to speak to a nutritionist about it, and a professional, right? Whoever's engaged by this site. It's standard of care number 9. And I was never able to follow through on that for personal reasons, yet again, because I'm living in the shelter system. It's really challenging. There is a problem. And I ended up taking it to HSH myself. I ended up speaking with Janae Washington. And I can't remember. Chris, I can't remember. I'm so sorry. Kramer, yes,
Yeah.
thank you. And so I was able to do that myself, but to expect people on the ground to be getting this information across it's just too much for, I think, those people. I mean, I'm going to tell you, regularly, people were getting sick in that building and not only didn't know who to report it to, but were overwhelmed. I mean, if you're sick and you don't have access to our committee directly, or if you know how to go through the channels, it's going to be really challenging. When I spoke to the shelter owners about it, or the shelter operators about it, they said that they were subcontracted with the building owner, who was actually the one who provided the food. And I'm concerned about that as well. I'm concerned about subcontracts. I'm concerned about responsibility around food. And I'd really like you guys to go deep into that and review every site. And I'm so grateful that you have people now who are taking on that responsibility at HSH. I'm grateful to know that there's a nutritionist now who's taking responsibility for that. And that's really great, but we need to make sure that standard of care number 9 is being met.
Thank you. Thank you, CJ.
Charles?
Yeah, just a suggestion. I mean, I don't know, Patrick, if it makes sense or if it's possible, but it'd be great to have the nutritionists come speak to this committee and we could just ask these questions more directly and understand what it is that they do.
She might be on. I think she comes to those meetings. Kathleen De Silva, is she on? Oh, Robert,
Is Kathleen
is
Silva?
Kathleen De Silva on?
Yeah, not sure. We'll invite her to come and talk to.
Yeah, I think you should invite her. Yeah, or her and Kim Jower. I think would be awesome. And if you don't have those contacts, Robert, I'm happy to send them to you.
Yeah, no, we definitely are in contact with them.
And I apologize.
Yeah, I just want to say, when I was at Five Keys 5 years ago, Bayshore, Barcadero, Site 10, I, as activities coordinator, really committed to getting food in. And so we used food runners and Good Egg to really augment the food. And it really, it took a lot of energy to do that work and to be really committed to it. I was really committed. And I see some Five Keys people here, they can tell you that. That those are great resources to augment the food, because the food, no matter what, it's still institutionalized. It still can be, it's
Degrading.
it's going to be hard. So, I would encourage the CBOs to reach out and get good activities coordinators or people that can really be committed to using the food bank and augmenting it. There's a lot of food out there that goes to waste and lots of resources, but you just really have to be committed to that and making the food program a priority in the organization.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Brett.
Right.
Hands raised, Robert.
And if you'll
I have one question. My question is to Patrick. Has there ever been, or is there a sense of, one, why we don't provide 3 meals a day? And if we could provide 3 meals a day, cost effectively, would that just be unheard of? Or, because you're right, to set one to the caller, folks are coming off the street, they haven't had access to food. And what is it for us to provide 3 meals a day?
Totally, Angie. Totally heard. When I came in 2021, this was existing policy. So I don't know how long, to be honest, how long we've been doing 2 meals, if we've ever done 3 meals a day. Here's what I will tell you. I hold the Meals on Wheels contract, and the contract assumes, right, full utilization and full shelter capacity, right? So that means that the shelters are full and that everyone's using 2 meals every single day. And that contract is 70% underspent, 30% underspent, because there's never that level of ordering from the sites, because there's just not that demand. And it's because people, by and large, that this is not, everybody's different, right? And there's all kinds of different folks in our shelter programs. But I think by and large, people do not spend all day, every day at the programs, right? They're out in the community, they've got work, they've got people to see. So just the utilization isn't there currently. Like, so what I see currently, I have all the tracking for all of these meals. They're just not getting utilized all the time. And so to add even more to that, I'm not sure that like the demand is there. That being said, we always do, like somebody else mentioned, we want the sites to have those kinds of relationships with Replay, with Proper Foods, with some of these food runners, with these programs that will help supplement for the people that are in the programs day in and day out, who aren't going out and really don't have a way to access food outside the program.
And maybe, we can revisit the food issue, HSH, because now there's this thing called medically tailored meals for people who they can access. And again, they're medically tailored for the person. So a lot of people may know that resource exists.
Yes. So, if you'll allow me just another couple minutes on this. So, some in the weed stuff, but I think really important to this conversation. So we, the Meals on Wheels contract was due for new procurement. It went through an open RFP bid this year. where it was an open bid. Meals on Wheels won that bid, and that contract's going to the Board of Supervisors this month. And so as part of that, we did a number of alterations to what was required, including a requirement that you need to have a set meal that's going to meet people with that's going to meet the majority, not all, but the majority of people with special dietary needs outside of vegetarianism. Vegetarians, they have their own 2-week cycle. There's vegetarian meals on their own. This is about low sodium, low fat, and there's something else. Maybe it's gluten-free. But it like special dietary meals basically. And so Kathleen De Silva and Kim and Meals on Wheels are working together to come up with a 2-week meal cycle specifically for those special dietary meals to make sure that those are available for anyone who needs them in any of the programs utilizing the Meals on Wheels. Yeah.
There's a lot to do with food.
Yeah.
We're just scratching the surface.
Yeah. 1.5 million meals a year.
Wow.
Thank you so much for being available to us, Patrick, for all these additional questions.
Yes. So CJ and then Charles.
I just want to say, I'm, Five Keys is doing a really great job of supplementing Meals on Wheels. And I'm really impressed, in general with the way that, I ate so much salad last night, and I'm really grateful for that. We need that, and they're doing a really great job, and I just wanted to put that on the record.
Thank you.
Quickly, I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but I do see Kim Jowers on the call, and just to say hello and pass on an invitation to next month's meeting. We'd love to speak with you more.
Go ahead.
You got another hand up too.
Yeah.
Justice has her hand
We
up.
have a caller and we have Justice, okay?
Justice, are you able to?
Yeah, I'm ready. No, I just
Go
had a
for it.
question also about the food thing too, just to refresh my memory. Because back when I was in the shelter, and this was all before COVID, everything, at least most places that I went, was things were made. They had like a chef for each place that made stuff. And then I heard like during COVID, they were getting stuff delivered to minimize contact or whatever. And so now on this side, I'm just wondering if you're still just delivering stuff or if they've kind of transitioned back to making food, which it doesn't sound like that it is, but I haven't been everywhere making food on site or not.
Yeah, great question. So I think especially during COVID in the SIP hotels, there was food getting, and in many of the shelters as well, just depending on the program, there was food getting delivered every day. That was, of course, a COVID measure. It was quite expensive. Food was good, I heard, but not quite sustainable as much as the SIP program wasn't. So we have now that's done. Now there are some sites that are getting fresh meals delivered. These are the sites like Mission Cabins, like the VTC. They don't have kitchens. They don't have a way to like prep food. Even like the Meals on Wheels, like they don't have a way to keep meals frozen and heat them up. So they're going to continue to get delivered meals. That's part of the hot meal program that was part of the bid that Meals on Wheels won. Shoot, I just lost my train of thought. The other programs are all either getting fresh meals made that day in programs like MSC, or they're in the Meals on Demand model with Meals on Wheels, which means that you can have a meal 24 hours a day, anytime that sort of fits your life and lifestyle and needs, that you can get that meal 24 hours a day. And those are the Meals on Wheels meals.
Thank you, Pat.
And can I throw out one correction from earlier? Just from my colleague messaged me on MSC. I had it backward. CAP is actually filling their beds. It's the shelter wait list that's having trouble, and I think it's the shelter wait list relatively new the last 6 months or so. I think they're still figuring out how to get people who have put themselves on the queue, contact them, and get them, actually physically to the shelter is proving to be a challenge. That's where most of those vacancies are coming from, not CAP. I had it backwards, so I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Patrick, can I ask you a question about that real quick?
Yes, I may or may not have an answer.
We know that a lot of people are choosy about the locations that they go to. So on this new model of the shelter wait list, It's the only thing is available would be MSC South, and they've had a bad experience and they don't want to go to MSC South. Are they knocked off the list and have to start over again, or do they have 3 days or something to pick a place?
You know what, Angie? I'm gonna have to get back to you. I'm so sorry. I just don't know the answer.
All right, you can send it to me in Teams chat.
Thanks.
I appreciate you.
Can Patrick really sit down now?
Thank you, Patrick.
Hi, Azim. On recidivism and retention of employees and the issue of trainings. I heard Patrick mention that people have their food handlers cards, and nah, that's not the case. And I'll explain why. If we're not able to hold on to people who are in a position of running a kitchen, and that needs to be covered, it will be covered by somebody else in another position or somebody who's on call. And 99% of that time, that's not somebody who has a food handler's card. So they don't understand temperatures. They don't understand defrosting and then refreezing and how that's problematic, especially when it comes to Meals on Wheels, right? Because that happens a lot with Meals on Wheels. So with that being said, there's really no incentives for somebody to get a food handler's card and or even a guard card if they want to be security, because there's no pay differential between those positions. And that's, I mean, at a certain point, it's like, if I'm working in the nonprofit industrial complex, my flex is having as many certs as I can have, because that gets me in a different tax bracket. So let's, make it more desirable for people to be competent in the positionality within the system so that people want to be there and they understand temperatures and they understand that you don't put meats on top of vegetables, I mean, yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
And I think we do have a caller with their hand raised.
Yeah, she's at the public comment. We know that. We're not there yet. We haven't even approved Robert's report. We're getting there. That's the hope.
It looks like they lowered their hand. I'm not seeing it anymore.
No, she's off. I don't see her.
So not seeing any more questions. Can I please have a motion to accept the staff
Make a
report?
motion.
Thank you, Brett.
A second.
Thank you,
Somebody put something in
Belinda.
the chat, look like. Yeah. Something was in the chat.
Robert, can you please check?
Chat. Oh, let's see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toribio, we utilize for,
Food banks and food banks.
we utilize food banks and runners as well. I'm not remembering where Toribio's at, but we've.
It's at Embarcadero.
Where?
Embarcadero. I
Embarcadero
believe.
Nav?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's great.
Kimberly, registered dietitian provides SOC training for food safety and proper handling annually. One person on staff is recruited to have food
Required.
safety.
Yeah.
Serve safe manager card.
Yeah, the
Okay.
food handler card.
Okay, food handler card is how that was referred to before. But we can perhaps get more into that in the future. Apologies for slow response, tech issues, okay.
All right, so we have a motion and a second to accept the staff report. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Now it's general public. Come on up. Comment, general public comment. And I apologize for having to wait so long.
That's okay. Good morning to everyone.
Hello.
So my name is Maria Marin. Living right now in a shelter. And I have one suggestion that I'm living right now, and maybe there's something that maybe you can help the people or the families living in the shelters. But I have a special one. This is a special request for my daughter. I work at nighttime. I work in 10:30 to 7 a.m. And she told me, Mom, there is a post in the hall, in the elevator. Go to the meeting and bring my 3 letters. There's 3 letters from the doctor. There's a medical behavior. One is for orthopedics. And the second one is, the third one is the therapies. We right now we're living with the 4 families with the babies. The babies are crying, they're playing with toys. She has a problem in one of the left knee. And she fell one of those days with a toy with the baby. And especially her was in the knee that she has problems. And she said, Mom, there is a way that you can talk to my doctors and say, help me, help me to change the room. Because she has a condition and I bring the letters. So she said, go bring these letters. Maybe someone can hear you in that place and help us. This is the first one for my daughter. So I have the 3 letters and my wish is that I can give it to someone that can help the family. And another suggestion is they have a rules to sleep at the 10 o'clock and get up at 6 a.m. But the people, when they turn off the lights at 10 o'clock, the people continue they don't fall asleep like right away. Right. But the kids that are going to school, they can't sleep and they're having troubles with like missing the hours to sleep and then get ready for going to school. So my just suggestion, since those suggestion is especially for my daughters, because they say, Mommy, the babies or the kids that are going to school, we can sleep because parents, the babies, the newborn babies, we are in the same room. We cannot fall asleep and we cannot go to school. I'm sleeping at the school because I can't sleep. And this is the 2 questions, the two things that my daughters want to bring in this meeting. I'm not in the wrong. I'm not wrong because she told me, no, Mom, that's not wrong because this is for shelters. So maybe there's someone can hear because I already talked to my case managers and I still don't have any answer. So my wish from her so that someone can help us and do something.
So Ms. Marin, I want to say thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing, first of all.
Thank you.
I appreciate your words and I take them to heart. So I would like for Robert to meet with you after this meeting to help facilitate a reasonable accommodation. That would be the number 1 thing, and also to help facilitate a communication with the shelters around us. Because you're right, this is a serious an issue that's impacting your family. And we hear that. We hear you and we see you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Please
for
stay.
coming.
Thank you.
Suggestion for our next month's agenda.
Yeah.
One for our pre-meeting. I have noticed that I'm just not clear. I don't have.
Can't hear Marion.
I'm sorry. Get here. My name is Marion McFarlane. I work as a shelter monitoring committee staff. And I did notice that there are complaints regarding to reasonable accommodations. And I myself, I'm new, so I don't know the policies when it comes to whether or not a shelter can fulfill the reasonable accommodation. And where do we go from there? What does that mean? Because I would hate for it to be what I would think is a simple accommodation.
Yeah.
Be a reason to exit the client for needing a higher level of care.
Yeah.
When a higher level of care facility would not accept that client because those are considered reasonable accommodations that they think should be made by the shelter. So I would suggest if we could possibly put that on our next agenda.
As to what a reasonable accommodation is.
Yeah, and how do we collaborate with our collaborative partners on trying to get those accommodations met, and then where do we go when we can't?
Right. So
Find a
that's
middle
a great item for the subcommittee. Yeah, so that we can, yeah, there's a lot going on. And again,
Marion.
from a historical perspective, I've never, and again, this is just me, when I was in a position to accommodate reasonable accommodations, we would accommodate them all. We never turned any down. And I want to believe that most shelters operate with that same system. But again, that's not obviously been some people's experience. So that's something that we need to address. So thank you. Thank you again, Ms. Marin.
What shelter are you in?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hamilton. Hamilton.
Wow.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
Oh, I also just want to make sure that we get Kimberly at the next meeting too.
We're going to invite her.
Okay.
Okay.
One other thing. I just remembered, I got a notice that Mary McFarland from Shelter Monitoring Committee staff again, that there has been some efforts to recruit members for these committee members. So Bridget Batiso, our program manager, has sent out a flyer to different collaborative partners or to stakeholders, and it's going out to the shelters, and it's also going out to the Department of Disabilities and Aging Service Advisory Council. So if you guys want that flyer, we can forward it to you for those individuals that you have in mind for the position. But there are some other efforts that are still being made as well.
Thank you. Good to know. Thank you, Bridget.
Also, really quick, go ahead.
Oh, I was just reading the chat because they both said they would be at our next meeting. So I just want to make sure that Robert, you got that for our agenda, that they got the space. Kathleen, I can't remember.
Kim?
Kim and Kathleen for the full committee meeting, yeah.
Right. Tracy, you had a comment?
Yes, for that, seat one is, can you guys, send out the requirements for seat one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The language for it, yeah.
Yes.
We're going to get updated language because it may have changed.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Seeing no other public comment, anybody else? Before I ask for a motion to adjourn?
Do we, so point on the agenda, staff report from Robert?
We approved it. We did. You missed that. There was a motion and it was, we voted on it and nobody opposed. Sorry if you missed that. Did I? Oh, no, we have Robert's report, your complaints.
Yes.
Oh, Robert, how could I forget the big complaint?
For the record, I didn't miss it.
Right, and review the inspections.
Maybe because we heard
Yeah.
so many things today.
I was
Let's
like,
recap.
It has been a very robust meeting.
Yes. All right, Robert, share your complaints
Okay, well,
or the complaints, please.
We'll do this quickly. And I'm not going through the individual complaints. They are on the report on our website. It's entitled Staff SOC Report, but I'll just share a summary of the types of standards of care that were alleged to be violated. So there were fewer complaints than last month. There were 6 formal complaints that came through. We had, I think there were 2 from Hamilton, 1 from Ellis, 1 from Monarch, 1 from Bayshore. And standard 1 is the big one. That's treat all clients equally with dignity and respect. And there were 6 allegations that impacted or that referred to that standard. There were 3 on the safety standard number 2, 1 for case management services. I'm not sure if that's the best description of standard number 8. 1 for dietary modifications, 2 for storage, 1 for staff allegedly not wearing their badge, and 1 that was really thought that the staff need more training. Shelters responded in a timely way this month. We did have an issue there for a little while with
Robert,
some
can you
late
please
responses.
clarify on the late responses? Are those responses a week late, over 30 days late?
Yeah, so the shelters only have a week to respond, and so if they don't do that and don't, explain that, they're waiting for somebody to come back for a vacation or something, then that we would count that as late. So 30 days is pretty egregious, and that was where we had agreed we would make sure to involve you with that.
So none
But
of these
we are coding them late, even theoretically at 7 days, because they that's the administrative code says they need to respond. Pretty
Are
much.
they acknowledging,
right away.
still acknowledging receipt after 48 hours?
Yeah, we agreed. One of the shelters pointed out that they would appreciate if we would get back to them if they don't acknowledge receipt. So that's something we're going to be more rigorous about. In other words, if they haven't responded, maybe that's because they missed the complaint or their email is messed up or whatever.
And I just want to remind the committee, anything that is over 30 days late comes to the chair so we can address it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Along with allegations of, like
Abuse.
violence or fraud. I shared a couple with you this month, unfortunately. So membership, seat 1 is vacant. And we put that in our agenda or in our standard of care report as an item. And the meeting calendar is there. And that's really it, if we want to go quickly on with that.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions? And again, these complaints are sent out with the agenda, so you can review them before the meeting. So if you have any questions, please review them prior to the meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
I just have one quick question. I'm sorry, but first of all, that I didn't review them before the meeting. But I just, with regards to allegation number 1, I'm just, so where do we, the monarch complaining of roaches and mice? So we have here the allegation and then we have the response, I guess, from the site. Where do we take it from here? Where does it go from here?
Well, the complainant could ask for an investigation, because, the site says, that they address it quickly, that they are not as bad as they're being painted by the person who complained. So the complainant can ask for us to investigate, in which case we could go in and do surveys.
Right.
They happen to have an inspection recently, and, it's not, you don't necessarily see this sort of thing in an inspection. A lot of this stuff on a non-congregate site is in the rooms as opposed to being out in the public areas.
How is the complainant notified that they can ask now for an investigation, or how does that process go?
Yeah, the complainants should be when we provide the complainant with the site response, we should let them know that they can ask for investigation if they disagree with the response.
Maybe follow through and make sure that the complainant is aware of their next steps.
That's the process with all complaints. Yeah. Okay.
And-
Thank you.
Okay.
So, yes.
I actually did the inspection and I haven't even turned it in yet, so I don't even know how there's a response to it. I think this came about from just having a conversation and then making a claim and putting it on social media. So
Okay.
it's not even completed yet.
Okay, great. Just
So working
just
on it.
asking. Okay, great.
All right.
Just curious.
Any other questions or comments? Anyone from the public, come on up.
Actually, yeah.
Can I make a quick, sorry, Zia. I've sent out emails to schedule May visits. Just a reminder, please respond. As a committee, I also like the whole emailing different people it's inconvenient. And so maybe we can bring this to subcommittee, but I wonder if there's a way to streamline that process. Maybe it's a form that we fill out. Maybe it's text, maybe it's WhatsApp. I'm not sure. And there's a conversation there about Brown Act that I want to also make sure we cover, but
What we used to do,
Charles,
it hasn't
I've
been
seen your
done.
email.
Yeah.
Charles, I've seen your emails. I have to figure out my medical schedules.
totally get it. Just thought I'd flag.
And we would send out what our availability was on a calendar.
Yeah.
And so again, that's something that we can discuss on how to make it more efficient.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. It's all yours, friend.
Azine.
Azine.
Excuse me, Azzie.
Yeah, Zia is my dad's name. Yeah, so I'm not a boy. Thank you. Trigger alert. I'm curious, as a public member, what access I have to what screening looks like when y'all are going to the shelters, because I know that every program is run by, a CBO. And again, the thorn in my side is what does that oversight look like? And how much of the communication is happening between the city and these contractors in terms of what the program is supposed to fulfill? As you know, most city contracts are just legal protections for the city and, a stopgap. There is no expectation in terms of programmatic expectations. So with that being said, every investigation is going to be different in terms of what CBO you're looking into and whether they're fulfilling their end of the contract per your list. And I'm wondering what's happening with that. And it's a rhetorical question, obviously, but.
So if I'm understanding your question correctly, Azine, you're asking what checklist do we utilize when we go to do a site visit?
Exactly.
And we talked about that earlier. We're going to revise it and update it because we're missing some things on it. So
Okay.
that will be made available to the public as well.
Okay.
Okay.
It's currently available.
It's currently available, but know that it's being updated. So you're going to see, say, oh, this should be on there,
Great.
Okay.
And that brings up the 2 points that were sort of here today in terms of staff training, which I always in nauseam bring up staff mental health support. I believe that there do things that are coupled together so that we hold on to staff. And then again, sort of, I do take note of, only having one staff member in charge of food. If you have one person that's running food program, but yet they're not on site and they have to just sort of make sure that whoever is covering that shift is compliant, that's gonna be an issue.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no more public comment. Robert, does anyone remotely have their hand up?
You don't see anyone, Angie? Let me try to open that again.
I don't see anybody, Robert.
Okay, thanks for looking. I'm glad you were able to look at that.
Seeing no more questions or comments from the public. Do you have anybody? No? Okay. Make that motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. We have a first and we have a second, and I'm not going to say names because I don't want the look. All right. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you for coming. None opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all remotely and in person. And I appreciate everyone's comments.
Spots opening up in a month.
Thank you.
CJ.
Opening. Yes, we've never.
Hey, Deanna. Deanna, can you hear me? Robert, can Deanna hear me?
Angie, yes, we can hear you. We probably need to close out because it's
We're closed. I
think
was
a
just wondering
requirement
if
of the city.
Deanna's, just ask Deanna if she's had a chance to talk to Jeff Simby yet.
If she's had a chance to what?
Call Jeff.